Pain can be the teacher you spend your life running from, while it quietly teaches you the most about yourself. It is not just the physical pain or the pain of circumstances, the emotional pain. It is the pain of being a person. You think your suffering comes because life has denied you something. No. Your suffering comes because you constantly demand life to make you whole, to fulfill your desires. This is the whole tragedy. Look carefully and you will see it. A child is born without psychological suffering. There is hunger, discomfort, sensation, but no story yet. Then slowly, consciousness identifies itself with the body and mind. It learns a name. It learns memory. It learns comparison. It learns desire. Then one day, the pure sense of being becomes entangled with an image. I am this person. From that moment, suffering begins. The person is not stable. How can it be? It is an amalgamation of changing things: memory, conditioning, social approval, emotion, personal history, fear, and desire. Yet this unstable structure wants permanence. It wants continuity. It wants security. This impossible demand is the beginning of psychological pain. You are trying to build certainty out of things that keep changing. Desire is not wrong morally. Understand this clearly. Desire is suffering because desire begins with the assumption that the present moment is insufficient. The mind says, I am incomplete as I am. I need something. I must become someone. I must achieve something. I must be loved. I must be recognized. I must arrive somewhere. There is a great violence hidden in this movement. The present is rejected in favor of an imagined future. You stop living and start waiting for some future moment to save you. Then the mind runs toward objects: money, success, pleasure, spirituality, power, relationships, knowledge, experiences. Each object carries a promise. When I obtain this, I will finally rest. But you never rest. You only move from one hope to another. Observe your life honestly. Every desire says, after this, I will be complete. Then fulfillment comes, and for a brief moment, the mind becomes quiet. In that quietness, there is relief. Immediately, the mind concludes, this object gave me happiness. No, the object did not give peace. The chasing stopped briefly. The wanting stopped for a moment, so you felt relief. Eventually, the old unease returns. Another desire forms. Another pursuit begins. Another future is imagined. This is what you call living. The mind is constantly escaping itself through movement. If you cannot obtain what you want, you suffer. This is the first form of pain. You want love and do not receive it. You want recognition and remain unseen. You want certainty and find confusion. You want permanence and encounter change. You suffer because life is not behaving the way you want. But suppose you obtain what you want. Then another form of suffering begins. The moment you say, this is mine, fear enters. You fear losing your relationship. You fear losing your wealth. You fear losing your youth. You fear losing your reputation. You fear losing your position. You fear losing your importance. Understand this deeply. Attachment and fear are born together. To possess psychologically is already to suffer. Why? Because everything you possess is unstable. You are trying to hold clouds in your fist. The stronger the attachment, the greater the fear. A man attached to nothing has little fear. A man who has built his identity around possessions, relationships, beliefs, and status lives in continuous anxiety, even when smiling. His pleasure already contains the seed of pain. Then life does what life always does. It takes. Not because life is cruel, because all forms are temporary. Relationships end. Bodies age. Success fades. People die. Circumstances change. Identity collapses. And then comes the third form of pain, the pain of actual loss. This pain cuts deepest because the ego has become entangled with what disappears. When something attached to the self-image is removed, it feels as though part of oneself has died. In a sense, it has. The psychological self is made from attachment. A man says, my wife, my child, my status, my success, my purpose. But remove these identifications one by one and he begins to panic because he no longer knows who he is. So suffering is not merely loss of objects. Suffering is the collapse of identity. Now listen carefully. You suffer because you demand permanence from impermanent things. This demand is never spoken directly, but it is always there beneath the surface. You want lasting pleasure, lasting security, lasting importance, lasting relationship, lasting identity. But reality does not cooperate. Everything moves. Everything changes. Everything dissolves. The mind cannot accept that everything changes. That is why there is an undercurrent of pain in ordinary life, even during periods of success. Even in pleasure, there is tension because the mind knows unconsciously, this will not last. Look at desire carefully and you will see something astonishing. Before obtaining what you want, there is pain. After obtaining what you want, there is fear. After losing what you want, there is grief. So where exactly is lasting fulfillment to be found? The mind never asks this deeply because it is addicted to the next object, the next relationship, the next success, the next insight, the next experience, even the next spiritual state. Yes, even spirituality becomes another form of greed. I will become enlightened. I will become pure. I will become free. Who is this I that will become something? Find out first. The root problem is not desire alone. Desire is only a symptom. The real problem is identification. A thought appears and you say, my thought. An emotion appears and you say, my suffering. Fear appears and you say, I am afraid. But who is this I? You have never investigated. You assume you are the body-mind because consciousness has become hypnotized by experience. Clouds pass through the sky, yet the sky remains untouched. In the same way, thoughts, emotions, desires, fears, pleasures, and grief pass through awareness. But you cling to the passing movement and call it yourself. This is ignorance. The person is not an entity. It is a process, a bundle of memory, a movement of conditioning, a pattern of identification repeatedly reinforced through thought. One day you are confident, another day broken, one day loving, another day hateful, one day spiritual, another day selfish. Which one is the real you? All states come and go, yet something knows them. That knowingness itself does not come and go with every emotion. It is present in happiness and sorrow alike. It is present in childhood, adulthood, and old age. Thoughts change continuously, but the fact of awareness remains. You overlook this because your attention is always moving outward toward objects and experiences. Turn attention around. Instead of asking, how can I become fulfilled? Ask, to whom does this suffering occur? Ask this question and watch how quickly the mind rushes to answer it. Do not follow the answer. Stay still. A desire arises. Observe it. Fear arises. Observe it. Grief arises. Observe it. The one who sees the movement cannot itself be the movement. This is the beginning of wisdom. You believe enlightenment means acquiring permanent bliss. This is childish. Bliss also comes and goes. Any state that appears will disappear. The enlightened man is not a man floating in ecstasy. He is one who no longer derives identity from passing states. Pain may still arise. Grief may still arise. Compassion may arise. Even fear may arise momentarily. But there is no longer total identification. The wave realizes it is water. Then life continues naturally. Understand the difference carefully. The ignorant man says, I suffer because life does not give me what I want. The seeker says, I suffer because attachment creates pain. The wise man sees, the one who claims ownership of experience is itself a transient appearance in awareness. This is the final understanding. Then suffering begins losing its hold on you. Not because life suddenly becomes easy, but because you stop clinging so much. Pain may still come, loss may still come, but there is less holding, less fear. Life does not stop changing. What changes is your attachment to it. As psychological attachment weakens, the mind no longer constantly says, "This must remain. This must not change. This defines me. I cannot exist without this." Freedom is not freedom from experience. Freedom is freedom from compulsive identification with experience. Then love becomes cleaner because it is no longer based entirely on possession and fear. Action becomes cleaner because it is no longer driven solely by insufficiency. Even pain becomes simpler because resistance decreases. So is pain or suffering the doorway to enlightenment? For most people, no. Suffering usually leads only to more distraction. But for a serious human being, suffering can become a doorway because eventually repeated disappointment reveals a fact the mind tries desperately to avoid. Nothing temporary can permanently satisfy you. This realization is frightening to the ego because the ego survives through hope in objects and future states. But this realization is also sacred because it turns consciousness inward toward its source. Without dissatisfaction, very few would inquire deeply. They would remain intoxicated by pleasure, ambition, and becoming. So suffering has a function. It exhausts illusion. At first, you suffer because you cannot get what you want. Then you suffer because you are afraid to lose what you have. Then you suffer because life eventually takes everything. Finally, if intelligence awakens, a different question emerges. Who is the one passing through all these states? Remain there. Remain with the naked sense of being itself. Before identity, before story, before becoming. There you will discover something extraordinary. Awareness itself has never been wounded.